evening. And of course, we are discussing that AU resolution that was made regarding the ICC. The Deputy President is on his way back to The Hague tonight, and the President is contemplating and mulling over whether he will go to The Hague come November or not. And many will remember the statement that he made during the presidential debates, that this was a personal issue. And the question is, when did it move from being a personal issue to being a national issue to being a continental one? Thanks, guys, for joining us. Moses, let's start with you. When did this cease being a personal issue?
It ceased when he took that Bible and said, I do swear to protect the Constitution. Because the person who was in that presidential debate was a civilian, a normal Kenyan who was vying for a seat. The minute he took that Bible and he swore at Kasarani and he took that sword, he ceased being a property of himself and he became a subject of the Kenyan people.
But according to the Constitution, is he above the law in this regard? Professor, let's bring you in on that one.
I think Moses, as usual, doesn't like truth, so you can see what he's doing. He is misleading the whole nation by saying the president, when he spoke, knew that he would one day become president. He was hopeful he will become president, and he knew that he would handle the matter privately. So what Moses is doing is just some semantic exercise with nothing much. But to come back to your question, is there are several issues to look at. If you look at our Constitution, Article 2D of the Constitution, which talks about the supremacy of the Constitution of the Republic, it says that all the rules of international law apply to this Constitution. Elsewhere, when you read the Constitution, there are several articles, 154, 140 something. There are many places, but I can just tell you that the Constitution, again, elsewhere inside, says that the president cannot be exempt from crimes against humanity. So international crimes, if they occur and the president is there, he's not immune to that. So the Kenyan Constitution legally allows the president and the deputy to go out and attend case. So he's not above the law, because the law that he's obeying now is covered by our Constitution, and the crimes that the law is talking about are crimes against humanity, which are still covered by the Constitution. So there is no place in law which says the president cannot go.
Moses, should he go, should he not?
Well, I don't think he should go, because no sitting president anywhere in the world has ever been tried by a court, much less a foreign court. I don't know why we had the M-Pesa innovation. That is a first one. That's enough for us to be the first one.
But was that not ratified in our Constitution, Louis?
I don't think we're going to have to deal with this matter legally, logically, constitutionally. This is a political issue. And that is the dilemma the president is in. And even the argument about the statement he made when he was vying, it is a fact. He was vying at the point he was a civilian. Now the circumstance is different. But at that point in time, we had to express the care as the voter, as the Kenyan. All the circumstances were there. So if we got duped or if we were gullible at that point, these are some of the things we have to deal with as Kenyans. But you cannot argue the fact that at that time, he had no oath of office. He could say whatever he wanted to say. And we then gave him, those who did, gave him the money to take that a step further. But we cannot then sit here and argue about, will we go the constitutional way in a country where we don't even have a history of championing the letter of the law, the letter of the Constitution. That's not the record Kenya carries. And this will not be the first time that we're going to stick to it.
Moses, what do you have to say to that we're not a country that champions the rule of law? Would the president then be the first person, the head of state, to flout the rules?
I don't think that championing the rule of law and the president sticking to choose which is the bigger body that he is going to obey to, the ICC or the Kenyan Constitution, I don't think there's any conflict in that. You know, people are saying that whether he should listen to AU or not listen to AU. By the way, the ICC is a multilateral body. AU is a multilateral body. Which one is more supreme? Why do people imagine that ICC is more powerful than the AU? Kenya has ratified both. The AU is much older than Kenya, than the ICC. When we had the OAU, it was ages before me and you were born. Okay? And then we imagine that now, because we have got ICC, a Johnny Camilleri in 1995, that we ignore an organization that has been there for ages. So I think it is important we note also that if we wanted to have ICC as a part of the constitution, the way Professor would like to mislead us here, we would have said that the courts of Kenya comprise of the Supreme Court, the High Court, the Court of Appeal, and the ICC.
Professor,
why did we do that?
You see, I want you to engage me in a proper way. I have quoted sections of the Constitution that say that the president is not immune to crimes against, accusations of crimes against humanity. He cannot be exempted, and that is in the Constitution, Moses, and you know it. And then secondly, we also domesticated the ICC process in Section 2D of the Constitution. Now the question we are raising is, I think we must revisit probably what Louis Otieno has said, that there is the politics of it. There is also the legal part of it. When we argue about the Constitution and what it says, that is the legal aspect, and that is true. The president even pledged to take care of that because he knew the Constitution already did not protect him against that. But now he hopes probably to win the war through politics. Now the question is he going to win that battle through politics? It has other ramifications. In my opinion, I think that whoever is telling the president not to go to The Hague, already the deputy president is there. I think, in my consideration, the president is law-abiding, and he promised he can deal with this matter. The people who are encouraging the president not to go are probably saying, especially in the African Union, which you know is full of fellows, heads of state who have either diminished political competition or they rule their countries through impunity. These are the people who are encouraging the head of state of Kenya to join them in that, when this country has actually respected the rule of law.
Okay.
So we do not want that because it has ramifications on us. And when the pain starts biting about the possible consequence of the president or the deputy not attending the ICC, those things start biting us. Yvonne, we are going to bear the brunt of the pain alone. Egypt, Sudan will not help us to share the pain.
Let's talk about that. Consequences, should he decide not to go?
You know, Professor was here at one time at Checkpoint advocating for military coups. I don't think that is the way we really want to go on this particular.
I would say that.
I think that the AU was very clear that they have given, even being law-abiding, even the AU, which is composed of impunity people, as Professor would have us believe, did not say start non-cooperation immediately. They gave the ICC and the UN Security Council until 10th of November. I say, if nothing is heard from you by the 10th of November, then we are instructing you not to attend.
Right.
And that's why I think, in my opinion, Deputy President Ruto traveled to The Hague today, because he said, look, we're going to give them time until 10th of November. If they don't come back with a response, then I think the D-Day really is 10th of November.
Okay, but let's talk about the consequences should he decide not to go. One of them, I would imagine, is of a sitting head of state, much like Omar al-Bashir, who has a warrant of arrest out for him, but also, talking about sanctions, possibly.
We need to discuss those consequences within our country. I think it is, it's a moot argument to have this in regard to the AU. There's been that transition from OAU to AU. And Kenya, we've had the privilege of being the country that has watched from the armchair and looked at other things happening in the continent. And now we're in a situation where we are making a choice to jump into that playing field, which we've not been party to. And those already will bring consequences. We have not been in the rough and tumble of African countries having their own contestations within, that now we are asking to join. And those are the kind of voices that have actually not been consistent with the way this country has grown. So for us now to sit in a circle with them and say they're speaking for us, I feel very sad about that, because that has not been the Kenyan way. We have had the privilege of being able to chart our path, make our rules, set our own standards.
Okay.
Now we're going to a place where people can now walk in and tell us, since you want us to lend voice to your situation, first of all, the amount of groveling that we are doing on the backside of this is shameful. Because now we're telling them, take voice, and they're treating us like a prodigal son. They're saying, so you went, you thought you had sorted it out, now you've come back to us. So those are two different arguments.
Okay.
I think in line with that, Yvonne, there's also the other side. This ICC, at what point did it force itself on Africa? Because you see, we cannot keep telling a lie and then hope that this lie will one day turn truth. The ICC has been invited by African governments on their own volition. Look at the Kenyan case. There were attempts by the former president Kibaki to have a local tribunal. People rejected the local tribunal. They didn't think it was working. So we invited ourselves there. Now, after we have invited ourselves there, we now start abusing ICC. Really, if we didn't call them here, they would not be here. So the bottom line is, we also have a constitution that says ICC can come here, and if we invite them, that is not a constitution. So the way to get out of this thing is, the African Union should recognize that Kenya has also its own constitution. So to change our way of doing things will not be from the African Union. It's going to take...
Which is what I think they're trying to do in Parliament, and that's what they'll try to do.
The legal process in Kenya must change Section 2D and then withdraw from the international community obligations, and then we can say, yes, we have withdrawn. But whatever noise they make, nobody has broken the law by asking a sitting president to go to The Hague.
You know, if the Bible was being written today, it would be written that it's much easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than to get some sense from Professor Kisiangani. Why do I say this? Because we know very well that we have got three ways of referring matters to the ICC. One is through a United Nations Security Council referral, like in the case of Sudan. The other one is by state parties. And the third one is what we call improprio motu, which is the prosecutor acting on his own. Right. And you know very well that according to the statutes of the Rome Treaty, Kenya followed the third route. It is the prosecutor, Ocampo, who actually exercised his powers of improprio motu. So I get sick every day when I hear that Kenya invited the ICC to come.
But surely, Moses, the fact that we ratified to that, and it is part of our laws, and we accept that process, either through each of the processes that you may have mentioned, either way it made its way to the ICC.
Let me tell you, the law that actually domesticated the Rome Statute was invalidated by the Constitution of Kenya 2010. That law was passed in 2009. It was not part of the transitional laws that were actually adopted. It is a fallacy.
We see that which part of the Constitution? Which article?
Listen, the International Crimes Act is not part of the Kenya Constitution.
No, the International Crimes Act, which we are using now, does not become superior to the Constitution. The International Crimes Act that we have in this republic is a domestication of what is already in our Constitution.
No, but which Constitution? When that law was created, my good friend Professor, we didn't have the Constitution of Kenya 2010.
Yes, but what is superior when it has a conflict? In fact, Section 2, Article 2 says that any law that is made that is in violation of this Constitution is null and void. So now, if you compare the International Crimes Act, if it conflicts with the Constitution, we go with the Constitution.
I agree totally, and that's why I'm asking you, that same Constitution, does it mention that ICC is part of Kenyan court?
It says all the rules of international law are part and parcel of this Constitution. You can read this.
That Constitution, it mentions...
You can read this, you can see it.
This is exactly the situation that political handlers want to happen in this country. Because right now, it is invalid to have an argument about how did we get there. I don't think there's any Kenyan who doubts that the ICC didn't jump us, didn't rush us, they didn't break doors down to get here. There's nobody who's arguing about that. To waste time and start thinking about who let them in, and to waste more time arguing about who's allowed to do what within the ICC, that is what this country has done so much of. Engage in the wrong argument. We have a very clear argument, which is, if President Uhuru Kenyatta does not go, what does that mean? And that's why I said, he has a political decision to make. It's nothing legally, it's nothing that is going to be legally motivated. It's about Kenyans asking ourselves, can we love him and forgive him enough so that when he doesn't go, whatever consequence that comes with it, we can bring him back here and say, there's pain to be sorted, there's people to be pacified, Are we ready to say it's okay for us as a country? We cannot solve this.
Let's get back to the consequences. And once again, Moses, the fact that you are saying the president should not go, should there be consequences, then in effect all Kenyans are brought to bear the responsibility of the decision that will be made by the president, whether he chooses to go or not to go. What do you say to Kenyans who are afraid of possible sanctions?
The wife of Gabo, the president of the former president
Simone,
of Ivory Coast, Simone, has a summons to go to The Hague, and the government of Ivory Coast has said no, she's not going. I've not heard of any sanctions. So I think that is a precedent that has been set. So I don't think that anybody would, in their right mind, especially looking at our geopolitical situation and the security situation in the region, would rush talk about things like sanctions. I don't think if the president and the deputy president are not going, it means that the trials are stopping.
Here's another one.
What they would be saying is that they have got lawyers. Those lawyers can continue with the process, and they continue with the act of government.
Here's another one. Does it sit well, should he decide not to go and there's a warrant out for his arrest for our head of state? Tell us about the image that would create.
Well, I think that is a part of the scarecrow that has been created by the West, programming you to think exactly the way you are thinking.
No.
Thinking that the sun will not rise from the east because somebody has refused to go to the ICC. No, I think it's going to be a normal day in this country, and the sun will rise from the east.
Of course. Of course. I'm not going to be a soothsayer like Kuria. I'll just get straight. The international justice system works within a certain framework of the international community. We have certain ethics, we have certain rules that we operate with. The people who are saying that if he goes there are no consequences, probably they usually have breakfast and dinner with God, but I don't. There will be some consequences. The question is whether we can bear those consequences. There are certain consequences, like, for example, downgrading the diplomatic value of Kenya within this region, because if they don't go, the obvious thing from the Rome statutes is that the ICC will issue warrant of arrest. That does not mean they will capture our president, but that already criminalizes our president. Right now, our president is not criminalized because he has not been proved guilty, even the deputy president. So what they are doing is that in their humility, when they attend court, they are demonstrating statesmanship. And that's why I think that anybody who is encouraging him to do the contrary is just creating more problems, because they can still go to The Hague. The only way, I'm sure the president is desperate to clear his name. And the only way he can clear this name and come out the stronger is to attend court and probably poke holes in the evidence that is being presented.
And here's a tweet that's coming in, very interesting. Gina Moja says, the deputy president is also in office, but he's cooperating with the process. Yes. Can the president do the same thing?
Yvonne, the people that are represented by the African Union, in terms of population, are more than the people represented by the rest of the ICC countries. If you take the 34 countries of Africa...
Are you talking of tyranny of numbers? Well, in a justice system?
I don't know why you fear tyranny of numbers. There's nothing wrong with it. That's why we are... You always profess democracy, but when it comes to tyranny of numbers, you don't want it. Why this double standard? The point I'm trying to make here is that the African people, the entire African population is much more than the rest of the ICC states combined. If you give it consideration that you don't have China, we don't have India, we don't have... And the deputy president has been instructed clearly by the African Union, which represents more people than the rest of the ICC combined, that come 10th of November, it is not what you think. It is us, as a body politic of the African people, who are going to decide. I'm sure he's going to listen, just as much as the president is going to listen.
That is totally irrelevant. The decision that will be made
always irrelevant.
Has nothing to do with the AU giving us instruction.
Yes.
The mathematics that is being played now at State House is very simple. If we go left, who's going to be upset with us the most? Who do we have to negotiate with the most? It is deliberate that you have front runners like Amina Mohammed there, who's a very good negotiator. That is her job now. The people at State House are trying to build bridges now as we speak, as we waste time discussing who let in ICC, as we waste time discussing the AU. The AU is not going to decide Kenya's destiny. We have to sort it out, and by doing that, they have to put down paper and draw a map and say who would be most upset to deal with us. And what's going to happen? There are countries which have already been lined up now, who have already made a decision. If you hang left, we'll stay with you. But there are those countries, for them to stay, we'll have to give more. There's no free lunch. And for them, that will be a door to come back to this country. Because we cannot then say we're going to be an independent island, void of the West, void of the East. The East has never cared what you do. The East has never cared who you afflict, where you've infringed on. The East will do business with you because it's business. Now, if you want to deal with the West, you can take them up on matters of inconsistency. But come the decision you will make, what you're then telling them is, in the face of public image, how then can we deal going forward?
Okay.
It's about mathematics, and that's what I'm telling you. It has nothing to do with legal issues. It has nothing to do with people sitting around the AU making up situations and tables. We've never led our country based on those decisions. How many times have African presidents come into this country and left, and all we see is a bit of a news item? We've never really engaged. A lot of Kenyans don't even know that our biggest trading partner is Uganda.
Okay, all right. Moses, your final comments.
I find it difficult to imagine that somebody of Louis Otieno's caliber would just dismiss, the hundreds of millions of Africans.
I would be shocked if you could process it.
But
so I'm not surprised that you're challenged to
this is the third year, 2011, 2012, 2013. This is the third year that AU has taken similar resolutions. I don't know why they have not gotten the kind of stick that they are getting right now. 2011 in Addis Ababa, they said, we don't want these cases to go on. Defer the cases. Let us have an African mechanism. 2012, the same thing. 2013, but because of the hate and jealousy of this country, now because you're dealing with a president and deputy president, the matter gets heightened. But some of us have been speaking the same language with the AU for 3 years. But because there's this thing of wanting to bring down somebody because you believe he's doing better than you. I think that's what is happening there. But it's not nothing new. We have to start looking at what has been happening within the AU context over these years.
For the avoidance of doubt, let it be very clear that, as Louis, I'm saying, I am not going to depend on what AU thinks.
Okay.
I feel bad we have to play within the presence of the AU. But I know for a fact, for the president and for the deputy president, it is about us Kenyans saying we love them enough and we will be able to take them in our hands, whatever the decision is, because it is them. It is our country.
All right, I need to stop you because we need to give Professor the last word. We've got just about a minute.
Two quick things. One, I am persuaded that the president will continue attending court because he must clear his name and he knows it. So I think he can listen to the people who are cheering, telling him to go, but the president knows the implications of that. He'll attend court. And when he attends court and the evidence thrown out, he's going to emerge strong. And I'm sure he will do that. The second thing I want to tell Moses Kuria and those who in his camp in Africa who support impunity, especially the heads of state that met in Addis Ababa the other day, is that even within the African judiciaries, you don't see anything working. Inside Kenya today, we have talked about the reform in the judiciary. We still think this judiciary requires a lot of reform for it to reach certain levels that we can trust it. Because if you take some people to court now, we have seen MPs going to cheer up those who have been indicted in The Hague. What about if it is in Nairobi, where people will bring a whole tribe to start arguing that so-and-so was not part of it? So my point is this, that even as we are, condemning the international community, the West, for interfering with our affairs, what are we doing for the victims, especially in Kenya?
Indeed.
Yes, what are we doing?
Okay, and we leave it at that. We thank you, and we will wait to see between the two of you. We need to wish him a happy birthday, even as we finish our discussion.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Happy birthday, Professor, and
thank
you
Thank you very much.
for joining us. These are the twins, so hopefully they share a birthday today. There you go. Thank you so much for your views. That's been Checkpoint. We will wait to see. Professor says he believes the president will go to The Hague to clear his name. Moses says he shouldn't. Well, November the 12th is coming up soon, and we will wait to see just how this one plays out. That's been Checkpoint. Thank you for your feedback. We want to take a short break. We'll be back with some sports news for you.